Most people don't stay stuck because they lack awareness. They stay stuck because awareness doesn't change behavior. If being self aware was enough, you, me, and many others would already be healed. A lot of people watching this are very self aware. You know your triggers, you know that your childhood wasn't perfect, you know what annoys you, and you know your patterns. But yet, your life hasn't changed the way you expected it to. Why is that? The issue here is not failure. It's simply a misunderstanding. Awareness is often treated like the finish line. Once you see the problem, you've somehow solved it. But awareness is just recognition, not reprogramming. What people don't tell you is this: you can see the pattern clearly and still live inside it. You can name the wound, trace it back to childhood, explain it intelligently, and still react the same way when the moment hits. Because insight doesn't automatically override habit. Understanding why you are the way that you are doesn't dissolve the conditioning that made you that way. In other words, knowing your trauma doesn't mean you're healing it. Awareness happens in the mind. Patterns live in the nervous system. That's the disconnect. In the book I wrote, The Path to Finding You, I talk about alignment as a cycle, not as a moment. Awareness is only the first stage of that cycle. Becoming aware simply means you can observe a pattern, a behavior, a reaction, or a trait without being completely unconscious to it. But observation alone doesn't create change. It creates a choice point. And if you stop at awareness, nothing actually shifts. The same triggers appear, the same responses fire, and the same outcomes repeat, just now with better language and more self-awareness attached to them. Real change begins after awareness, when the body is brought into the process, when repetition replaces insight, and when regulation becomes practice instead of theory. This is where the inner child comes in, and not in the way social media usually explains it. You see, your inner child isn't some abstract idea. It's the part of you that learned to survive before you had a choice. And if that part of you learned people were unsafe, or love was conditional, or emotions weren't allowed, that programming just doesn't disappear because you understand it. So what happens? Your adult logic knows better, but your nervous system reacts first. As adults, we've gained enough cognitive development to be able to discern between right and wrong, which things are for us and those that are not, as well as what it feels like to be safe versus being in a state of constant fight or flight. When you think of healing, what's the first thing that comes to mind? If you said anything regarding your past, inner child, or childhood traumas, you're on the right track. However, healing isn't about fixing your inner child. It's about stopping them from running your decisions. The decisions and choices have been programmed into your subconscious. This may sound obvious, but your triggers are younger than you think. I remember when I used to get so angry as a child and never knew why. When certain negative experiences happened, I would always feel this burning sensation in various parts of my body. As I got older, I would ask myself, what does this mean? And why do I feel this fiery anger inside my body? This is the part that most people miss. Trauma doesn't just live in memory. It also lives in the body. That's why you can think your way into understanding, but you can't think your way into regulation. Understanding is a cognitive process. Regulation, on the other hand, is a process of strategic, conscious action. Your body learned certain responses before your mind developed the language to express or describe them. And until those responses are addressed, awareness stays in theory. This is why people feel stuck even when they're doing the work. And what does doing the work look like? It looks like overanalyzing, reframing thoughts, journaling endlessly, and trying to think your way into a different outcome. They're working mentally, but the pattern is physical. You can't logic your way out of a nervous system response. That's an uphill battle you lose every time. Your nervous system doesn't respond to insight, it responds to repetition. It's been wired by what you've lived through, not what you've learned. So you can tell yourself, I'm not going to react. But if a sound, a tone, a look, or situation has been paired with a threat enough times, your body already has the data. It fires first. Your thoughts then arrive second. That's why so many people understand their trauma, but still live inside the same reactions. There's a gap between the mind and the body, and insight alone doesn't close it. Until the body is included, healing stays theoretical. Your body remembers what your mind wants to forget. Real healing happens when awareness turns into ownership. Ownership turns into new responses, and those responses are repeated until they no longer feel forced, until they become familiar, and until they feel natural. That's how patterns actually change. Not through insight alone, but through lived repetition. That's why alignment isn't about becoming someone new. It's not about self-improvement. It's not about adding another identity on top of the ones you already wear. Alignment is about remembering who you were before adaptation took over, before your nervous system learned survival as a personality, and before coping became identity. If this resonates, that's exactly why the path to finding you was written. Not to fix you, because you're not broken, but to help you recognize the cycles you're living inside of and how to step out of them consciously. Awareness is the beginning. Integration is the work. The next question most people would ask is, what does integration actually look like? To illustrate, integration starts when you stop trying to eliminate reactions and start learning how to stay present inside them. Interrupt the loop, not the emotion. When the trigger hits, the goal isn't to calm down immediately. It's to notice when the body activates and choose not to escalate it further. Pause. Breathe slower than the reaction wants to move. Allow the sensation to arise without turning it into a story. Also, let the body finish what the mind already understands. If something was learned through the body, it has to be released through the same exact body it learned it from. Stillness, breath, movement, rest, etc. These are requirements. Awareness opens the door, but doesn't walk you through it. Real change, which is insight followed by action, when understanding is paired with practice, and when the body is finally included in the process. You don't heal by becoming someone else. You heal by shedding the responses that were never yours to begin with. That's the work. Not fixing, not forcing, but integrating. Awareness is the beginning, and integration is the work.